The room went silent when Dutch Schultz pulled the gun. Not the kind of silence where people stop talking, the kind where everyone stops breathing, where time itself seems to freeze, where 12 of the most dangerous men in America suddenly realize they're about to witness a murder or become accessories to one. It was October 15th, 1935, at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. This was the Commission's first official meeting since Lucky Luciano had founded it 4 years earlier. 5 families, 12 bosses, all gathered in a smoke-filled suite to discuss the future of organized crime in America. The topic on the table: what to do about Special Prosecutor Thomas Dewey, the Boy Scout who was putting mobsters in prison faster than they could bribe judges. Dutch Schultz had a simple solution: kill him. Lucky Luciano said no. And that's when Dutch Schultz, the Dutchman, the Bronx beer baron, the man who had killed over 30 people, without blinking reached into his jacket, pulled out a .45 automatic, and aimed it directly at Lucky Luciano's head in front of 11 witnesses. At a commission meeting, this was the ultimate violation of every rule Lucky had spent 4 years building. The gun didn't waver. Dutch's finger rested on the trigger. His face was red with rage. "You're telling me no? You, some punk from the Lower East Side?" Dutch snarled. Lucky didn't move, didn't flinch. He just looked at Dutch with those cold, calculating eyes and said something that made Dutch Schultz, a man who had never backed down from anyone, lower his gun and beg for mercy. What Lucky said in that moment didn't just save his life. It changed the commission forever. Understanding the Thomas Dewey problem. To understand why Dutch Schultz pulled a gun on Lucky Luciano, you need to understand what Thomas Dewey was doing to organized crime. In 1935, Thomas Edmund Dewey was 33 years old, a Republican prosecutor with political ambitions and an incorruptible reputation. He had been appointed special prosecutor for New York County with one mandate: clean up organized crime. And he was actually doing it. Dewey didn't play by the old rules. You couldn't bribe him. You couldn't intimidate him. You couldn't make him look the other way. He built cases methodically, flipped witnesses, and followed the money. Within 18 months, he had secured convictions against 3 major mob figures and was building cases against a dozen more. For old-school bosses like Dutch Schultz, this was unprecedented. In the old days, when you had problems with prosecutors, you paid them off or scared them off. Simple. But Dewey was different. He was a crusader, and crusaders don't scare easy. Dutch Schultz was feeling the pressure more than anyone. Dewey had been investigating Dutch's numbers racket in Harlem for months. He had witnesses. He had ledgers. He had enough evidence to put Dutch away for 20 years. Dutch knew what prison meant for a man like him. He had seen bosses go in strong and come out broken. He was 43 years old. 20 years meant he would die behind bars. So Dutch decided to solve the problem the only way he knew how: kill Thomas Dewey and make it look like a robbery. Some punk catches the prosecutor walking to his car boom. Problem solved. But there was a complication: the commission. The commission and its rules. Lucky Luciano had founded the commission in 1931 after ending the Castellammarese War. The idea was simple but revolutionary: 5 families, equal votes, disputes settled through discussion instead of bullets. No more boss of bosses. No more blood feuds that lasted generations. The commission had rules, and one of those rules, maybe the most important one, was that you didn't make moves that brought heat on all the families. You didn't do anything that would wake up the federal government and bring them crashing down on the entire organization. Killing a special prosecutor was the definition of heat. But Dutch didn't care about rules. He had never liked the commission anyway. Too much talking, too much democracy. In his day, bosses made decisions and soldiers followed orders. End of story. So on October 15th, 1935, Dutch called an emergency commission meeting. He wanted approval to kill Dewey, not because he needed permission. Dutch Schultz didn't ask permission, but because he was smart enough to know that if he acted alone and things went sideways, the other families might throw him to the wolves. Better to get them on record supporting the hit. That way, they were all complicit, all in it together. The meeting begins. The meeting was set for 10 p.m. at the Waldorf Astoria, Suite 39C, neutral territory. The meeting started civilly enough. 12 men around a large conference table. Cigars, whiskey, the pretense of civilization masking the violence that had built all their fortunes. Lucky Luciano sat at the head of the table. Not because he was the boss. The commission didn't have a boss, but because everyone recognized him as the architect of this system, the visionary. To Lucky's right sat Meyer Lansky, his closest advisor. To his left, Frank Kostlow, the political fixer. Around the table, Joe Bonanno, Tommy Lucchesi, Joe Profassi, Albert Anastasia, Vito Genovese, and others whose names carried weight in the underworld. And at the far end, sitting alone, isolated by his own volatility. Dutch Schultz. Dutch got right to the point. Dewey's a problem. He's building cases against half the men in this room. He's got witnesses, evidence, grand juries. He puts me away. He comes for the rest of you. We need to handle this before it gets worse. Handle it how? Lucky asked, though he already knew the answer. We kill him, Dutch said flatly. Make it look random. A mugging gone wrong. A prosecutor gets shot walking to his car in a bad neighborhood. Happens all the time. The room shifted uncomfortably. Killing a federal prosecutor wasn't just murder. It was suicide. It would bring the FBI, the Treasury Department, the National Guard, every law enforcement agency in the country would come down on organized crime with a fury they had never seen. Lucky leaned forward. Dutch, let me ask you something. You killed Dewey. What happens next? The heat dies down. We go back to business. No, Lucky said quietly. The heat multiplies. They send 20 prosecutors. 50. They don't stop until every man in this room is in prison or dead. You don't kill federal prosecutors, Dutch. It's the one line we don't cross. It's the one line you don't cross, Dutch. Dutch shot back. Because you're soft. You think we can negotiate with these people? You think we can vote our way out of problems? This is war, Luciano. And in war, you kill the enemy. Meyer Lansky spoke up. Dutch, Lucky's right. Killing Dewey would be a disaster. We'd have every cop, every fed, every badge in America hunting us. It's not worth it. Not worth it. Dutch's voice rose. Easy for you to say, Meyer. Dewey's not building a case against you. He's coming for me. And when he gets me, he's coming for all of you. So I'm asking this commission, do we act like men or do we roll over like dogs? Lucky called for a vote. All in favor of authorizing action against Thomas Dewey, raise your hand. Dutch's hand shot up. Nobody else moved. All opposed. 11 hands went up. Every man except Dutch. Motion fails. Lucky said, we don't touch Dewey. Find another way, Dutch. Flee the jurisdiction. Take a vacation in Europe. But you don't kill a federal prosecutor. And that's when Dutch Schultz snapped. Dutch stood up so fast, his chair clattered backward. His face was crimson. Veins bulged in his neck. His hands were shaking not from fear, but from rage. You're telling me no? Dutch's voice echoed through the suite. Me? I built my empire while you were stealing bread in Little Italy, Luciano. I earned my place in this city, and now you think you can tell me what I can and can't do? The commission voted, Lucky said calmly. 11-1. That's how this works. Screw your commission. Dutch's hand moved toward his jacket. You know what your problem is, Lucky? You forgot where you came from. You forgot that this business is built on blood, not votes. Meyer started to stand. Dutch, calm down. Sit down, Meyer, Dutch barked. His hand disappeared inside his jacket. The room tensed. Every man at that table was armed. Most had killed before. They all knew what was about to happen. Dutch pulled out a .45 automatic, cocked it, and aimed it directly at Lucky Luciano's head. 3 feet away, point-blank range, impossible to miss. The silence was absolute. Not a breath. Not a movement, just 12 men frozen in time, watching to see if the commission, Lucky's great experiment in organized crime, would end with a bullet through its founder's skull. Dutch's finger was on the trigger, his hand steady. The shaking rage solidified into cold murder. Here's my vote, Dutch said quietly. Lucky's response? Lucky Luciano didn't reach for a gun, didn't call for help, didn't even lean back in his chair. He just looked at Dutch Schultz with those cold, calculating eyes, the same eyes that had stared down Salvatore Maranzano before ordering his execution, the same eyes that had built an empire while most men were still figuring out which street corner to work. And he spoke. You pull that trigger, Dutch, and you better kill every man in this room. Dutch's eyes flickered with confusion. Lucky continued, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The second I'm dead, you've got 11 enemies, 11 families, 11 organizations that will spend every dollar they have, call in every favor, sacrifice every soldier to make sure you die screaming. They work for me, Dutch snarled, but his voice cracked slightly. They work for the commission, Lucky corrected. That's the whole point. No one man is bigger than the organization. Not me, not you. You kill me. You're not killing a boss. You're killing the system. And systems don't die with one bullet. Meyer Lansky spoke up, his voice steady. Put it down, Dutch. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clear, Dutch said, but his gun hand wavered slightly. You all think Lucky's so smart, but he's leading you off a cliff. Dewey is going to put us all away, and Lucky wants us to sit here and take it. No, I want us to be smart, Lucky replied. You kill Dewey, the government destroys all of us. You kill me, these men destroy you. Either way, you lose. The question is whether you're smart enough to see it. I built my empire by not backing down, Dutch said, and you'll die the same way, Lucky countered. Is that what you want, Dutch? You want to be remembered as the man who is so stupid, so short-sighted, that he destroyed destroyed everything we built because he was too proud to listen to reason? The gun shook in Dutch's hand, not from weakness, but from the terrible realization that Lucky was right. If Dutch pulled that trigger, he was a dead man. Even if he killed Lucky, even if he somehow killed every man in this room, the organization wouldn't forgive it. The families wouldn't forget. He would be hunted for the rest of his short, terrified life. And for what? So he could prove he was tougher than a vote. The standoff ends. Dutch Schultz stood there, gun raised, finger on the trigger, staring at Lucky Luciano. 30 seconds passed. Might as well have been 30 hours. And then, slowly, Dutch lowered the gun. He didn't holster it, just lowered it, let it hang at his side like a forgotten toy. "You're making a mistake," Dutch said, his voice hollow now, empty of the rage that had filled it moments before. "Dewey's going to bury us all." "Maybe," Lucky said, "but we'll face it together, as a commission, the way it's supposed to work." Dutch looked around the table at the 11 men who had voted against him, men he had worked with, men he had fought beside, men who would kill him without hesitation if he crossed the line Lucky had drawn. "I want it on record," Dutch said quietly. "When Dewey puts me away, when he comes for the rest of you, I want you all to remember that I tried to stop this, that I saw what was coming, and you all voted to let it happen. It's on record," Lucky said. Dutch tucked the gun back into his jacket and turned toward the door. He stopped. "You think you're so smart, Lucky. You think this commission makes you untouchable." Dutch's voice was bitter. "But you just made a powerful enemy, and enemies don't forget." "Neither do I," Lucky replied. Dutch Schultz walked out of Suite 39C at 10:53 p.m. on October 15th, 1935. He would never attend another commission meeting. 8 days later, October 23rd, 1935, 8 days after the confrontation, Palace Chop House, Newark, New Jersey. Dutch Schultz was in the bathroom, washing his hands when two men walked into the restaurant with shotguns. They killed Dutch's bodyguard first, then his accountant, then his enforcer. Then they waited. When Dutch came out of the bathroom, they shot him twice in the stomach and once in the chest. He would die 22 hours later in the hospital, delirious with fever. His last words were a rambling, incoherent mess that police stenographers would transcribe and scholars would puzzle over for decades. The commission never officially acknowledged ordering the hit, but everyone knew. Dutch had crossed a line, not by pulling a gun on Lucky. Men pulled guns all the time in this business, but by threatening the system itself, by showing he valued his pride over the organization. The commission couldn't let that stand. The aftermath. Thomas Dewey continued his prosecutions. He never knew how close he had come to death. In October 1935, he would go on to become governor of New York, run for president twice, and die peacefully in his bed at age 68. Lucky Luciano went to prison in 1936, ironically on prostitution charges that had nothing to do with his organized crime activities. But even from prison, he ran the commission, directed operations, and made decisions. The system he had built was bigger than any one man, even him. The night Dutch Schultz pulled a gun at a commission meeting became legend in the underworld, not because of the violence was common, but because of what it represented. It was the moment the old guard realized they had lost, the moment the future of organized crime, structured, corporate, governed by rules instead of egos, became inevitable. Dutch Schultz tried to kill that future with a .45 automatic. The future killed him with 2 shotguns in a Newark chop house, and Lucky Luciano went back to building his empire, one vote at a time. In the underworld, you don't lead with fear, you lead with vision. And the men who couldn't see that ended up in chop houses in Newark, bleeding out on the floor while the future walked on.